voting in the June primary as part of it. But there are also a number of events being scheduled, including a hiking series that I'm very excited about. So with that, it looks like we are live and streaming now, which means it's my turn to get the heck out of the way and turn it over to our advocacy director, Janelle Mose, who's done a wonderful job putting this 3-part series together. Janelle, all yours. Have a great show.
Thanks, Josh. As Josh said, I'm Janelle Mose. I'm the advocacy director with AARP in North Dakota, and I feel like if it's Tuesday in May, then you're in the right place. This is our 3rd part of our voter engagement series, and we're so happy that you joined us. You know, we focus a lot on making sure that you as a voter have what you need to do in June to vote. So we've provided you a lot of information the last 2 weeks regarding redistricting. We talked about going to the polls, voting absentee, and tonight we're really excited to talk about local elections. You hear a lot about local elections related to city commission and county commission, park boards, school boards. There's a lot of action out there in local communities. I think tonight will really be the final cap to our voter engagement series and really provide you some great information so you feel equipped to go to the polls and vote for your choice. So again, Josh noted that we are using a Zoom webinar, so note the Zoom features. We're going to be using the Q&A features. So if you have a question for either myself or our presenter, you're welcome to chat those in the Q&A feature at any point during the webinar, and we'll make sure that we save time either in the middle of the presentation or towards the end to make sure that your questions get answered. And again, just a quick reminder that these presentations are being recorded, so you can go back and watch later, or you can share them with your friends or family on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AARP North Dakota. So again, for more than 60 years, AARP has been working to promote the health and well-being for older Americans, and we're continuing to do that each and every day. And voter engagement has really been something we've been laser focused on since the early part of January, and we're really excited that we're so close to the June primary, which really is the best time to get involved in local elections. So before we get started, we're going to pull up a quick poll question. For those of you that are just watching on YouTube, you won't be able to answer the poll, but for those of you that are on Zoom webinar, you see a poll now in front of you. So do you think local, including city, county, and school elections are important? So if you are on Zoom webinar, you can go ahead and weigh in on your choice regarding our question regarding local elections. And we will come back to that later on in the program. But without further ado, I am super excited to invite our guest onto the screen now. Stephanie Dossinger is with the North Dakota League of Cities, and she is here to talk to us about local elections. Welcome, Stephanie. How are you tonight?
Good. Thank you, Janelle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, as we mentioned, local elections really is a opportunity for community members to weigh in on issues that are important to you. And I think you're going to cover some of those issues tonight. But first, before we get started, Doreen, if you want to pull up that answers to our poll. Wow, so you have a very engaged audience, Stephanie. It looks like everybody agrees that local elections are important. So that's good. You all came to the right place, and I think Stephanie can really address some of the questions that you have and help you really understand not only who is on the ballot, but what's on the ballot in the June primary. So with that, I am pleased to turn it over to you, Stephanie. I'll go ahead and give you a second to pull up your slides, and then the webinar is all yours.
Great. Thank you, Janelle. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to see everybody here and incredibly excited to see that the poll turned out 100% of the individuals believe that local elections are important. Oh. So today's agenda, first I'm going to be covering the what, then the why, then the who. So we'll be talking about what's happening, the election, why it's important, and then briefly the who. I like to start my presentations with a joke. It is hard to find.
Stephanie, one sec.
Yes.
Can you, your slides aren't showing up on my screen?
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're not seeing your slides yet. So you want to just, there we go.
Okay.
Well,
I
that's a wonderful
apologize.
picture of your wedding and your dogs, which we all love dogs here. So that is excellent
Oh,
to start the evening with.
well, it worked earlier. Oh,
So while Stephanie's bringing that up, you know, a lot of you probably have received some postcards from us in the mail and lots of emails from us. We've been really super focused on making sure that you know who and what is on the ballot for local elections. So if you live in 6 different communities across the state of North Dakota, we really wanted to make sure that you could either vote absentee, or if you knew that your polling location changed, or when to vote early. But we also wanted to make sure that you were equipped to ask questions. We know candidates are going door to door. You may have seen some candidates in parades. You know, we really wanted to make sure that you had what you needed to ask candidates questions. And I think Stephanie might get into that later, but I think most important thing is we've made sure that you were equipped and tied to your local community, that local elections help shape the community not only for today, but into the future. So we hope that these programs have been helpful, and the other resources we have been sharing with you have been helpful as well. So it looks like the technology bugs have gone away, and Stephanie, now the floor is yours.
thank you, Janelle. I apologize. I thought we had that worked out. Okay, is it forwarding?
Yes, you are good to go.
Okay. So I like to start with a joke. It is hard to find a good election joke that isn't offensive to somebody. So this is a joke I found. It's not election related. So how did the North Dakota flag greet the Minnesota flag? It waved. Okay, so what? So we're talking about the June 14th election. It is rapidly approaching. On the June 14th election, when you show up, it's going to be the primary election for some statewide offices, some legislative offices, some of the districts are up, and then it's the primary election for some of the county offices. So being a primary election, it is going to be where the candidates are chosen that are going to be on the election ballot in November. I've come here today to talk about the offices that are actually on for election day, which are some city offices, park district offices, and then some school district offices. So in these 3 political subdivisions, when you vote, you are actually electing the candidates that are going to serve you and represent you for the next 4-year term. First and foremost, I want to encourage you to vote in both the primary to select the candidates that are going to move on to the November ballot, and the election. You're making a decision about how the future of your school district, your city, your county, your park district, and your state looks. It is important that you exercise this right to vote. VoteND.gov, that is a hyperlink there, but if you type it into your bar on your internet browser, that will go directly to the North Dakota Secretary of State's webpage. On that webpage, you can find all kinds of information about where you vote, how you vote, your options for voting. I'm not going to get into those things. I know that there was a webinar recently on all of those things, but I just wanted to remind you of that resource. So why are local elections important? Cities, park districts, school districts, they are making decisions that impact your life. Tonight, I'm going to look at Bismarck, Fargo, Grand Forks, Mandan, Minot, West Fargo, and Williston. I picked the largest cities in the state, hoping to hit on places where people are most likely to live. But there's elections going on in all of the cities across North Dakota, all of the park districts, all the some of the school districts. So just because your city is not on here does not mean there is not an election for you. I just didn't have time to highlight it in this presentation. So first up, we're going to talk about cities. Cities elect a city council or a city commission. It's the governing body and the policy-making body for the city. This governing body passes ordinances that govern how the city is run. It might have some criminal elements to it, like for minor theft, some traffic violations. It's also going to have things about water and sewer, how you abate nuisances if there are nuisance properties that are falling down or problematic. The city is also going to be looking at a capital improvement plan. So a plan for how the city is going to take care of its things, its infrastructure. Cities have infrastructure such as water infrastructure that gets the water to your home or business. They have sewer infrastructure. That's how waste leaves your house or business. They have storm sewer, which is how water gets removed and moved to places where we want it to be and removed from places we don't want it to be. Cities have roads and bridges. Not every road in a city is city owned. There's different structures by how that might be owned or shared with the state and the county, but cities own a lot of streets themselves and make decisions about how those are laid out and how those are maintained. Cities make decisions about development, some incentives, how they want their city to look, how they want their city to grow. They make decisions about zoning. So traditionally, you don't want things that are not congruent with each other. You don't want generally a single family home next to manufacturing, so a plant of some sort. So cities lay out zoning and a zoning code so that like things that are good neighbors for each other go near each other. Cities also have decisions about public safety. They have, some of them have police departments. Some of them have fire departments. Some cities get those protections in other ways. Those are policy decisions that the city makes. Cities make decisions about their employees, how many they're going to have, how they're going to be paid, what benefits those employees are going to be provided. The city also sets an annual budget. That budget sets the priorities for how the city is going to use its funds and ultimately results in a tax levy, which is what you see on your property tax statement and how much you pay for your share of the city services. Now, to get on the ballot, individuals that want to be considered for a city council or city commission or a mayor position need to circulate a petition and get signatures from 10% of the electors voting in the election the last time the office was on the ballot. But in no case is there ever more than 300 signatures required. So these individuals are going out and finding their friends, their family, and other folks in the community to sign a petition that says, yes, I want them to be on the ballot. Fargo is one unique exception, and they have a provision in their home rule charter that allows candidates to choose to either circulate the petition like we discussed, or candidates in Fargo have the option to pay a $100 fee to be on the ballot. So Fargo is a little bit different on that requirement to get your name on the ballot. For elections, city officials are elected to 4-year terms. You can see what's called a 2-year unexpired term if for some reason a vacancy occurred in the office in between when it was supposed to be on the ballot. I don't have any of those examples for you tonight, but that can happen. So I'm going to go through those cities we discussed and what is on their ballots, and we will move forward that way. So first up, we have the Bismarck City Commission. The Bismarck City Commission is a 5-member board. They have a commission president. You often hear of this person referred to as a mayor, and then 4 commissioners. So in Bismarck this year on June 14th, they will be electing a commission president. So there's 1 position and 2 individuals running for that position. For those city commission spots, they have 2 positions open and they have 4 individuals running for those positions. In Fargo, they have a 5-member commission. That commission consists of 1 commission president, also frequently known as a mayor, and 4 commissioners. In Fargo, they have 7 candidates running for the office of commission president or mayor. So one unique thing about Fargo is that they decided to use what's called approval voting. Approval voting allows you to vote for as many candidates as you approve of. So in the race for Fargo Commission President, you could vote for all 7 candidates if you approve of them, 3 out of the 7 or 1 out of the 7. However many of these candidates you would find meet your approval to serve in that role for Commission President or Mayor. For Fargo City Commission, they have 15 candidates running for 2 positions. So again, they use approval voting for the city commission race. So you can vote for 15 candidates or you can vote for 2 candidates. So there's 2 positions or any number in between. You could vote for 7 out of the 15 if there are 7 individuals that meet your approval. So you'll want to take a look and decide if you can vote in Fargo, how you're going to use that voting ability and how it best fits into the way you believe the city should be ran and those candidates. In Fargo, they also have a ballot question on the ballot this time. This one has to do with term limits. This one basically asks whether the city should have term limits for the mayor and city commissioners. If you vote yes, this would enact the 3 successive 4-year term limits for the city commission. And then if you're a mayor, you could serve 4 successive 4-year terms if you served as a city commissioner before. So if you vote yes to this, you would like these term limits as it's laid out here. If you vote no, it means you do not want term limits. So the voters will be deciding what's the best fit for Fargo in that instance. In Grand Forks, they have what's called a city council form of government. They divide their city into 7 wards. It's divided up by area of the city with approximately as many voters in each area. And then they have 7 wards and then a mayor. So there's 8 members total on their city council. And this year they have the positions for Ward 2, Ward 4, and Ward 6 on the ballot. And in each of those wards, they're electing 1 person. So in Ward 2, they have 2 candidates for 1 position. In Ward 4, they have 3 candidates for 1 position. And in Ward 6, they have 1 candidate for 1 position. In Grand Forks, they are also electing a municipal judge, and they have 2 individuals that are running for 1 position for the municipal judge in Grand Forks. In Mandan, they have 2 city commission positions on their ballots, and they have 2 individuals running for those 2 positions. In Mandan, they have a 5-member board. They have a commission president, or also known frequently as a mayor, and 4 commissioners. In Minot, they have a 7-member city council. So they have a mayor and 6 council members. So in Minot, for the mayor race, they have 3 candidates running for 1 spot. And for city council, they have 5 candidates running for 3 spots. Minot also has a municipal judge position on their ballot, and they have 2 individuals running for one spot for that municipal judge spot. In West Fargo has a 5-member city commission. They have a city commission president and also frequently known as a mayor and 4 commissioners. So they have 1 person running for commission president for that one position. And they also have 2 city commission positions on the ballot and 2 individuals running for that position. West Fargo also has a municipal judge position on the ballot, and they have 1 candidate running for the municipal judge position. Williston has a 5-member city commission. So they have a president of the commission, also frequently known as a mayor, and 4 commissioners. They have 2 candidates running for that one position of mayor. Williston has 2 candidates running as for the 2 positions of city commission. They also have a municipal judge position on their ballot, and they have 1 candidate running for that position. Now we're going to talk about park districts.
Stephanie, I have a couple of quick questions for you, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
About city stuff. So, we've received a lot of questions about approval voting. Is Fargo the only community in North Dakota that does approval voting?
Fargo is the only community in North Dakota that does approval voting. I have been told they are the only ones nationally that do approval voting as well, but I haven't been able to verify that. So it's certainly unique.
Okay, and we do have a lot of viewers that are from Fargo, but I know we have a statewide audience watching tonight. So if I'm not from Fargo, that's not an expectation. So when I go in and vote in Bismarck or in Minot, how is that going to look different if it's my first time voting in a city election?
Absolutely, great question. So in every other city except for Fargo, it's going to tell you how many positions to vote for and how many positions are on the ballot. So for example, if you go in to vote for the city commission race in Bismarck, it will say 2 positions. So you will only vote for 2 out of, in that instance, it's 4 candidates on the ballot.
Okay, great. And then another question was, is Grand Forks the only one that does wards? I know you said their commission is organized by wards. That's very different than Bismarck or Grand Forks or Williston, correct? In terms of their city commission, and those individuals represent the entire city. They're not representing a specific area of the city. Is that correct?
Right. So there are other cities, they are not as large as Grand Forks, that have wards. It's when cities were set up, usually in the early 1900s, they chose what form of government they were going to be set up as. And a lot of them chose a city commission where they have all of their members on that board elected at large, meaning they represent everybody. Some of them, like Grand Forks, decided that they wanted to have specific parts of the city have an individual representing them on the board. And so they organized as what's called a city council form of government, where they are elected by certain parts of the city.
That's great. So my final question for you, why do we care about voting in municipal judges? That's not something we've talked about in a lot of our local voter engagement. I talk about city commission and county commission, park boards, school boards. What's the role of the municipal judge, and how is that different than if you were to elect a judge for district court? And why is that important that voters weigh in on a municipal judge in their community?
So by state law, municipal judges are set up as an elected office. A city can choose to have one and really needs one if they're going to enforce their own ordinances, but that individual sets the tone for ordinance enforcement in the city. If you get a speeding ticket, that's the person that you're going to go see if you want to contest it. So they have a lot of influence on how laws are enforced and how kind of the enforcement procedures are set up. So you want to get to know those people, and if that's a person that can be making decisions about enforcement of your city ordinances.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I think I've drilled you enough with enough questions. You feel like you're on a legislative committee right now, right? So I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. So next we're going to talk about park districts. So park districts, park commissions, these again are your elected officials. They are your policy makers. Typically, a park district is a 3 or a 5 member board. It depends on how they wanted to set it up. They make policy decisions about park infrastructure. They make policy decisions about if your city has recreation programs that are ran through your park district. Parks are becoming more integral as a quality of life issue. I don't think it's any secret that we have a workforce shortage in North Dakota. And it's been shown over and over that when individuals are looking at where they want to make their home, their recreation and park opportunities matter. So these people are really making some decisions about infrastructure that can attract and retain individuals in your city. That park board is also going to be setting a budget. They're going to be hiring staff. They're going to be setting a budget that matches their policy priorities and meets the needs of the park district and those recreation programs. That budget, again, will result in a tax levy, which you'll see on your property tax statement that reflects your share of supporting the park district. When a park district or an individual wants to be on the ballot for a park district position, they have to circulate a petition and get signatures from 10% of the electors that voted in the election for the office the last time it was on the ballot. But again, like cities, they never need more than 300 signatures. These folks are serving 4-year terms. So they, and then again, there could also be a 2-year unexpired term on the ballot if for some reason someone had to leave the office midterm, it would be on the ballot. I don't have any of those examples, but it could happen in some of the other cities I didn't highlight, or when you go to vote in the future, it could happen, just so you're aware of that. So in Bismarck, the park board is a 5-member board. They have 3 positions open and 3 candidates are running for those positions. In Fargo, they have a 5-member board. They have 5 candidates running for 3 positions. In Grand Forks, again, they have a 5-member board, 4 candidates running for 3 positions. In Mandan, they have a 5-member board and they have 3 candidates running for 3 positions. In Minot, they have a 5-member board, 5 candidates running for 3 positions. In West Fargo, they have a 5-member board and 3 candidates running for 3 positions. And in Williston, they have a 5-member board and they have 3 candidates running for 3 positions. Okay, finally, I'm going to talk about school districts. School districts, again, their elected officials are the policy makers. They're going to set the vision for the school district. They hire and supervise a business manager or superintendent. That is the individual who runs the day-to-day operations of the school. The school board is going to be developing policies for how that school district is run. They're going to set priorities for how the staff at the school work and what they work on. They'll also make decisions about the infrastructure of the school, like what kind of school buildings they need, if they need to be updated. They're going to set budgets for the school district. That budget should reflect their priorities. And then that budget also will result in a tax levy. And that tax levy reflects the amount of your share to pay for the school district's operation on your property tax statement. For a individual that wants to be on the ballot for the school district, they file a statement of candidacy with the business manager of the school. So they don't have to circulate a petition like the city and the park board people do. They file, it's a signed statement that they would like to be on the ballot. School districts vary. A lot of school boards across the state have 3-year terms. However, every city, park, or every school district that I'm going to highlight tonight has 4-year terms. School districts also are not required to hold their elections in conjunction with the state's June 14th election. So there are some school districts that will have a different election day. You will need to keep an eye on that. In your own district, they will be publishing notices and putting out that information. So keep an eye on that. I just want to let you know right off the bat, Williston is one of those districts. So I do not have them on my slides. If you live in Williston, you need to keep an eye on when their election are and what's because it is not June 14th. They are in between April and June. They have a range of dates that they can have their elections. So for Bismarck School Board, they have a 5-member school board. For this year, for the June 14th election, they have 10 candidates that are running for 3 positions. For Fargo School Board, they have a 9-member board and they have 15 candidates running for 5 positions. For the Grand Forks School Board, they have a 9-member board and they have 23 candidates running for 5 positions. For the Mandan School Board, they have a 5-member school board and they have 7 candidates running for 3 positions. For the Minot School Board, they have a 5-member school board and they have 3 candidates running for 2 positions. For the West Fargo School Board, they have a 7-member board and they have 7 candidates running for 4 positions. With the school board elections, they will also be having a ballot question. It's worded a little bit differently depending on which school district has the ballot question, but the question asks whether the school board minutes should be published in the official newspaper. So if you are voting and you have this question, you'll need to vote yes or no on whether you think it's a good idea for the school board to have its minutes published in the official newspaper. Now, I've given you the names of the candidates and what offices they're running for. That doesn't give you a lot of information about who these individuals are. The best way to get them to know them is to have a conversation. If you can get their phone number, give them a call, visit with them, find out if your priorities match. You could reach out to them by email if you have an email. Sometimes you can reach out on social media, but that's going to be your best way to get to know these folks. The Minnesota and North Dakota Voters Guide is also available. I have the link there. It's put together by the Forum Communications and the Minnesota and North Dakota League of Women Voters. So some of the candidates are entering their information there. So that's also a way you can learn a few things about these candidates. Candidates that are running for office are also required to file what's called a statement of interest form when they file to be on the ballot. That outlines who their employer is and some basic information about what their job is. It's not super descriptive, but that might be a way to find some information. That is available either with the city auditor's office or if it's a school district with the business manager's office. They are also required when you have a city of over 5,000 to file some financial disclosures about how they're spending their money for their election proceeds. So you could also request that document from either the city auditor or the school business manager if that would be helpful to you. But please, my bottom line is vote. Election day is June 14th. Again, vote.nd.gov has a wealth of information about how you vote and who's on the ballot. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Janelle.
Well, thanks, Stephanie. This has been fantastic. You really have covered so much in such a short amount of time and made it really easy to understand and why local elections are so important. We did have a couple questions come in. So the first one is, of all the positions that you mentioned tonight, do the candidates have to state what political party they're affiliated with?
Thanks, Janelle. All local elections, the city, the school board, and the park are nonpartisan. So you will not see any of the political parties associated with these elections on the ballot. That's not to say that these candidates don't belong to a party, but that's not part of the election process for these offices.
Okay, great. And on the ballot, will it show who the incumbents are and who is maybe running for the first time, or it doesn't make a distinction on the ballot?
It does not make a distinction for incumbents or for newcomers to the election. So you would need to do your research beforehand to find that out.
Okay, excellent. We'll give folks just a few more minutes. If you do have questions, you're welcome to either type them in the chat feature at the bottom of the screen, or you can use the Q&A button. We don't get very often that we get Stephanie's undivided attention and focus just on local elections. As many of us in our jobs, we have dual roles or multiple roles. So it's nice to work with you on this and get to know more about who and what's on the ballot locally. So the one question I had for you, I noticed, is it rare that there are so many candidates running for, like, for example, Grand Forks, 23 candidates running for 5 positions, or, you know, is it a unique year that we see so many people that have declared candidacy either for school board or city commission, or not necessarily?
I think this year is unique. We are seeing, especially in school boards, a lot more interest. It certainly makes it easier to get on the ballot that they don't have to circulate a petition. So I think some people are finding it's easy to get on the ballot and are doing it. But there's a lot of interest. A lot of issues have come up that affect children and school boards, and people want to get involved, which is great. But I think this is unique.
And I think it shows, you know, that people want to get involved. And, you know, I think you've demonstrated today really the wide ranging issues that school boards and city commissions and county commissions and park boards, you know, talk about, and it really impacts our daily lives, and knowing who's on the ballot and what's you know, who's going to be the one that you want there making decisions for you, I think is important. So
Yes, absolutely.
okay, we had one person that wanted you to repeat, where can they find out more about the candidates? So if they want to know more about, you know, their statement that they filed, if you want to flip back to that and say, how can I find out if I'm in Williston, how do I find out more about the candidates running?
Sure. So in Williston, if you want a copy of their statement of interest, you can reach out to their city auditor's office. If you go to their city's webpage, I believe that person's email address is on there, and they will email you a copy of that statement of interest and the financial disclosure filings if you request them. If your question is about a school district member, you can email the school business manager for that district, and they should have both of those documents and be able to send them to you.
Great. So we'll give folks just a couple more minutes. I will also put in the chat, we also have a page available at AARP that you can check out that is up-to-date information related to voting. And most often it does direct right back to the Secretary of State's page, or you can find other resources and tools that you need to vote locally. So it's AARP/ND votes, and you can go there to find out some other information about voting in the primary as well. So we'll check to see we have All right. Same question about finding information in Fargo. So I think you're right, Stephanie. I think the best information for people, depending on where they live, Fargo, Bismarck, Grand Forks, is to contact their local, their auditor, right? To find out more about the candidates.
That's going to give you limited information, their statement of interest. So that will give you their employer, and then they check a box for what their job is at that employer. So that's going to give you that limited information. Otherwise, that North Dakota Voters Guide, I perused it a bit today. They have their candidates answering a few questions. So that's another place. It looked like a lot of Fargo's candidates have submitted their information. So that would be another place to read a little bit about these candidates and what their positions are.
Okay, great. And so for those of you watching online, we're also look for follow-up email from us tomorrow, where we'll send you additional resources and information, including links to potentially some candidate forums that were hosted by the League of Women Voters. So if you haven't received our emails so far, look for some emails. We'll make sure that you find easy ways to find out more about candidates that are running for office in your local community. So look for that email tomorrow. Also, we're always interested in finding out more about what you thought about this program and other programs that we have. So look for in that email a survey for you to fill out, as well as I'll put it in the chat. You're welcome to fill it out tonight right away when this program is over. But again, thank you, Stephanie, for joining me tonight. It was a pleasure to share the screen with you. I learned a lot, and I hope others did learn a lot as well. So folks, again, thanks for joining us for this third part of our Your Voice, Your Vote series. This was focused on local elections. And as a reminder, these were being recorded, so you can go back and view these programs later. You can also share them with your friends and family from our YouTube channel, so AARP ND on youtube.com. The other thing is, again, if you have other questions about voting, please go to aarp.org/ndvotes. That's also in your chat button if you're here on the webinar with us. And again, watch for a survey tomorrow that will give you information and additional resources about voting in the primary, and make sure you fill out that survey. We always want to know what you think and help us improve our programming and what you're looking for in future programming, which you do see on the screen in front of you. We do have a program tomorrow afternoon that is on apps, so you can take a look at our programs that are coming up tomorrow, and then join Kathy Schwan, our volunteer state president, on Friday, and she's going to have a guest on there that will talk more about voting in the primary. So again, really debunking the process, making it as easy as possible for you to find your voting location, to find out who's on the ballot, making sure you understand your ballot. If you want to vote from home, how do you do that? We're making sure you as a voter have everything you need to do to make your voice heard here in June. So again, thank you to my colleagues behind the scenes. You make me obviously look and sound better every day. So thank you again, and for running all the slides. We do this here as a team at AARP. So it's been a pleasure talking with you tonight, Stephanie, and thank you all for again joining us this evening, and we hope you have a great